This is Chris again. I need to do a video real quick in our darkroom series about paper types. There are essentially two types of black and white printing paper that we use in the black and white darkroom. One is called resin coated. It's basically, I call it the plastic paper. It's resin coated means that it's photographic emulsion that's put on a plastic base. It's basically like film. It's just instead of clear base, it's put on a white background. Resin coated paper, plastic paper. Then we have fiber-based paper. Fiber-based paper is the emulsion put onto an actual piece of paper, almost like cardboard actually, like a cover stock weight of paper. And that's actually, a fibrous paper. It's actually a wood pulp product. There's quite a bit of difference between the two papers. I see people sort of banter back and forth about, oh, it doesn't make any difference and things. It does make a difference. If somebody says to me, oh, there's no difference between RC paper and fiber-based paper, it instantly tells me that person's not very experienced in the darkroom. And I hate to be blunt, but that's the truth. That's just the way it is. There's a difference. So let's talk about what those differences are. It's not that one paper is necessarily worse than the other or better than the other. They're different from each other. What we want to understand are what those differences are. Okay? So they each have their place, they have their use. So this is plastic paper. I just grabbed some of my recent kind of work prints. You can see the shine off of that right off the bat. See that? My light shining on it there. This is glossy. Now, both papers come in different types. They come in different, there's like the standard sort of cool tone paper, there's warm tone paper, and they come in different finishes. This is the glossy finish, which is usually what I use if I'm using RC paper. You can also get like a pearl finish, which if you're going to do a display print on RC paper is probably a little bit better choice. And then there's also matte finish. I'm not a fan of matte finish papers in any kind of paper. I used to do prints for Historical Society. We did a lot of matte prints. I didn't like it. The pearl finish, luster finish, whatever they call it, was actually a lot better looking paper. So these are Ilford multi-grade. This is not the newest generation of this paper. This is stuff they've been selling for 30 years or so. Resin-coated papers. Resin-coated papers can look very good. I mean, you can see that's a pretty decent looking print. That's a window in Bodie. Grabbed a couple of them here. Another broken window on a theme here. That's actually a vertical that goes that way. Resin-coated paper is faster to develop. The reason it's faster to develop is because it actually has a developer built into it. This is the paper that you have to use if you're using like a mini lab machine or an automatic processing machine. I worked at a production, it was a big historical society doing historic prints, and we used RC paper, and they had a machine that actually went from dry to dry in 60 seconds on this stuff. The developer was like, you could power the space shuttle with the stuff. And what it does is they actually put a developer agent in the emulsion of the RC paper. So when you fed it into those machines, not only did the developer in the machine activate it and develop the emulsion, so did the developer within the emulsion. It activated that. So it's kind of a double whammy, because it went through the developer. It was like complete development in 10 seconds or something. It was very, very quick. So even if you're doing this at home, you can usually develop this stuff even in a thinned out developer like Deckdoll at 1 to 2, 1 to 3. A couple of minutes is all you need. So it's faster to develop. It's much faster to wash because nothing soaks into the plastic. It's almost like film. So you don't have any fibers or anything for the chemicals to get in. So you can wash this stuff pretty quick. You can stick it in a tray with some running water and you'll be fine after 5-10 minutes of washing it. The problem with RC paper is it isn't quite as rich and as sort of have a depth of image that the fiber-based paper is going to have. It also does not have the archival qualities that the fiber-based paper has because it's on plastic. Plastic doesn't last as long as a good acid-free piece of cardstock, essentially. So the archival quality is different, but so is the image quality. And that's kind of the point I'm making here, is about image quality. It's okay to use RC paper, the plastic paper, if we're doing things like first off work prints like this. What did my prints from New Mexico look like? Crank them out real quick on here. There's another Bodie one I grabbed, a wall at Bodie. But these are not going to have the richness and the depth to them in any of the paper surfaces that a nice fiber-based print is going to have. There's a difference there. So work prints, quickie prints, show your friends prints, something to keep on the coffee table and flip through, that's fine. For hanging on a gallery wall or doing a fine exhibition print, we're going to want to go to fiber-based. So You notice I keep this around. Now, if you haven't noticed, I kind of take my printing seriously here, and I have RC paper around because it has its purpose. It's just not for everything. So let's talk about fiber-based paper. Fiber-based paper, and these are fiber-based prints. Whoops, I drop them. These are fiber-based prints. That's a ruin out in the desert. Just flip through a couple. I don't know if you notice, even on the video camera already, that's kind of a nice looking print. That has a richness to it. You notice the shine on it is not as much as that glossy, but this is glossy fiber-based paper. It's not shining like that plastic stuff is because it's got a little bit of texture to it. That texture gives it also a nice depth. The emulsion on this paper is a better emulsion. I don't know whether the companies say it's the same emulsion or not, but even if it's the same, it looks better on here. It's just a much nicer paper. It's a deeper, richer paper. If you're going to do a fine print, and especially if we're going to do a fine print that we're going to tell somebody, this is my fine print, like a gallery, or we're going to sell it, or we're going to hang it on the wall as an exhibition, even if it's not for sale, we want to use fiber-based paper. Nice paper. Glowing whites. This sandstone here is absolutely beautiful. You wouldn't be able to do that on a resin-coated paper. That's a medium format picture of a rail car, tank car. Again, the blacks are deeper, they're richer than they're going to be on a resin-coated paper. What's that one? That's another window on a building, a covered-up window in a building. The paper has a richness to it. Now, this paper is not made for automatic printing machines because it likely break if you run it through something with rollers. So it does not have that developer agent built into the emulsion. So because of that, it's going to take us a little bit longer to develop it. I usually develop resin-coated paper for about 2 minutes in my developer. I leave this in there for at least about 3. Not a big difference, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It's not going to make a big difference. Stop bath is the same. Fixing time, you probably leave this in the fixer a little bit longer, but not a whole lot. You know, by the time you get to 4 or 5 minutes in a rapid fix solution, you're good on this. Washing this is a little different though. What we want to do for washing fiber-based paper is we want to wash it in a water rinse first, like a water bath after the fixer, so we get most of the fixer out. Then we want to put in a little hypo-clear solution, which is what gets rid of the residual fixer in there. Then we want to wash it for a bit longer. If you're doing actual archival prints, that we're going to call them archival, which is what you can do on this paper, we're probably going to want to wash them for more like 45 minutes, an hour, or something like that in running water. Whether it's a tray with running water that's circulating around, we can flip through the prints every few minutes to put a different one on top, or whether we're using an archival print washer like the big plexiglass one I have down here. You just want to wash it a bit longer. Now, if we're doing prints for ourselves, like these are, just sort of work prints so I can see what these prints look like. Don't necessarily have to do that. These don't need to be archival. I just want them on the good paper. So I don't really necessarily need to use the hypo-clear. I don't remember if I ran these to hypo-clear or not. Actually, I probably did not because I wasn't worried about it being archival. So I can still make a nice looking print on this paper even if I don't use it to the fullest of its archival possibilities. But the image quality is different on these. And that's really the point I want to make in this video about the printing papers. RC paper is fine for work prints, proof prints. If you're going to print something to scan it, you have to put it on the internet, to put it on a YouTube video or something, that's fine. Go ahead and use RC paper. When you're going to do a fine print and you're going to say, this is my fine print, you want it to be on fiber-based paper. If you're using resin-coated paper most of the time because you're scanning and things like that, you owe it to yourself to just buy a box of this stuff. What I have sitting here is this is Ilford Multigrade 4, glossy pink and green label. That's what I always look for. They color code it for you. This is the one that I buy. I don't really like the matte finish. I don't know if they have anything else, another finish in this or not, to tell you the truth. This is what they call glossy. Like I said, it's not as glossy. It's just a beautiful, beautiful depth to that image. So you owe it to yourself to buy a box of this stuff, even if you're primarily using RC paper, so that you can see the difference. One of my memories from my upstairs darkroom in the bathroom was the first time, because I was using RC paper because I was getting going. That's another thing if you're beginning. It's cheaper and easier to use the RC paper until you sort of learn how to make prints. But there was one day I was printing a negative that I had taken in Sequoia on a medium format camera. It was a 6x6 square negative. T-Max 100, very nice negative. It was a Yashica twin lens camera, and it was snow. It was trees in the snow. And I had been printing an RC paper and everything, and I had a box of, I think it was Seagull graded paper back then, grade 3. And I had cut up some little test strips of it, and I thought, oh, let me develop that real quick on the Seagull paper and see what it looks like. You know what? I was blown away. I pulled that little strip out of the fixer when I turned the light on, and I looked at it. Oh my God. It was absolutely stunning. And at the time, the RC paper I was using probably wasn't even quite as good as this newer Ilford stuff. But the difference was really, really striking. And I think you're going to find that if you're doing, fine black and white prints on fiber-based paper, the quality that you can achieve on the fiber-based really is quite striking compared to what you're used to on the resin-coated paper. You owe it to yourself to use fiber-based. When you go into a gallery, like if you see an Ansel Adams print hanging on the wall, it's on fiber-based paper. If there's an Edward Weston print hanging on the wall, it's on fiber-based paper. Brett Weston, fiber-based paper. Minor White, fiber-based paper. Margaret Bork White, fiber-based. Pick anybody, it's hanging in a gallery, it's on fiber-based paper. That's going to be true unless it's color. Color oftentimes is a plastic paper. But you know what's happening with the inkjet papers now is you're getting these fancy Hahnemühle papers, and what are those? They're essentially fiber-based color print papers for the inkjet printers. So even those are going to that wonderful texture of the fiber-based paper. But in a black and white print, you kind of need to know the difference. Actually, you definitely need to know the difference. So each one has its place, each one has its uses. I don't use fiber-based for everything. It's a little slower, it's a little more expensive. But realize the differences and the purpose of each of the papers. So that's the point of this video. When you see me doing prints in the darkroom, I'm probably going to be using fiber-based paper because I want them to look that good. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.